So today we'll continue on from where we left off during our previous discussion. Again, this video will be recorded. We'll have a quick discussion first regarding cubism, so you'll know what to do for your next and quite possibly last performance task for this semester. So yeah, let's proceed. And unlike our previous classes, where of course it's not recorded, this one will be recorded in addition to the fact that I will be uploading this presentation. So no more need to take notes, because of course in order to accommodate those people who are not here. So cubism, and we'll have a different way of proceeding with this lesson. I have each one of you read the slide. Let's start with Miss Mia. Ikaw muna.
Cubism was
Louder please.
Cubism was a truly revolutionary style of modern art developed by Pablo Picasso and
George Brock.
It was the first style of abstract art which evolved at the beginning of the 20th century in response to a world that was changing with unprecedented speed. Cubism was an attempt by artists to revitalize the entire traditions of Western art which they believed had run their course.
Alright, good. So if you remember from our previous discussion, the entire realm of art has been changed since the invention of the camera. And after that, the first trend that came out was Impressionism. Impressionism basically was a form of realism, but well, using different techniques. It was still a matter of copying reality, but adding a little bit of twist to it. Now, Cubism, please highlight the term abstract art, is one of the first forms of abstract art rather than concrete art. If you remember from our previous discussion, remember, concrete is that which is perceivable by our senses, abstract is that which is in the mind. So basically, we're going to create an artwork of something that exists only in the mind rather than what exists in reality. So again, Pablo Picasso and George Brock was one of the prominent figures regarding this field. And of course, it was their attempt to reinvigorize the artistic world, to add something new and create something unique. Alright, so next sir, go muna.
The Cubists challenged conventional forms of representation such as perspective, which had been the rule since the Renaissance. Their aim was to develop a new way of seeing which reflected the modern age.
Alright, so this is very important. Unlike other forms of arts, in painting, for example, which focuses on color or shadows and highlights, ang focus naman ng Cubism is perspective, the angle in which you see something. And of course, if you're going to draw something, lagi na sinasabi, always make sure you have the correct perspective. Always make sure tama yung iyong angle. Next.
The very name Cubism came from this painting. When the critic Celeste saw this painting, he said the houses looked like a bunch of little cubes. He meant the comment to be insulting, but the name Cubism stuck.
Alright, so Houses Near a Stock by George Brock. It was one of the first cubistic paintings ever made as far as the trend actually went, and this one was made during 1908. Again, just for reference, Claude Monet from Impressionism 1840, 60 years after that, or so I think 70 kasama niyo yung 8, 7 years after that, we have of course Cubism. And of course, if you look at it, George Brock wanted to create something that resembled houses. Yes, Camille. But then, it was described as looking like a bunch of cubes. Now, just like Impressionism, it was used in a very derogatory manner, meaning yung word na Cubism, ginagamit siya pang insulto, pero again, the name eventually stopped. Now, Cubism, sige, next one. Early Cubism.
Artists needed a more radical approach, a new way of seeing that expanded the possibilities of art, in the same way that technology was extending the boundaries of communication and power. This new way of seeing was called Cubism. The first abstract style of modern art, Picasso and Brock developed their ideas on Cubism around 1907 in Paris, and their starting point was a common interest in the later paintings of Paul Cézanne.
Alright, Paul Cézanne, correct. Now, this is just the history again. Sinasabi ko lang, it's just repeated again what was stated before. Alright, next.
Cubist
vision. The limitations of a perspective were also seen as an obstacle to progress by the cubist. The fact that a picture drawn in perspective could only work from one viewpoint restricted their options. As the image was drawn from a fixed position, the result was frozen like a snapshot. But the cubist wanted to make pictures that reach beyond the rigid geometry of
Alright,
perspective.
mamaya I'll give you an example of this one. Pero remember, ang focus nila is to get you to paint the idea of a thing that is not restricted with the perception or with the perspective of the thing. Alright, next one.
They wanted to introduce the idea of relativity, how the artist perceived and selected elements from the subject, fusing both their observations and memories into the one concentrated image. To do this, the Cubist examined the way that was.
Alright, next. Don't worry, pagkasabay-sabay ka yan. Sige. When you look at an object,
When you look at an object, your eyes scan it, stopping to register on a certain detail before moving on to the next point of interest and so on. You can also change your viewpoint in relation to the object, allowing you to look at it from above, below, or from the side. The cubist tried to show different sides of an object or person on one plane. This desire to show all sides at once or multiple views became known as simultaneity.
alright, simultaneity. Now, this is one of Cubism's method. Remember, one of their criticism is the fact that we can only look at one perspective at a time. If you've ever tried to draw architectural buildings, you will know that a thing looks differently the moment it changes perspective. Yung isang bagay na rectangular piece, for example, ganyan, if you're just going to look at it straight like this way, kita nyo yung shape niya is rectangular. But move it ng paganyan, the shape from your perspective automatically changes. Now, ito yung gustong gawin ni Picasso tsaka ng mga Cubist artists. They want to remove the fact that you can only look at the thing from one perspective. He wants you to look at the thing on all perspective at once. Alright.
Therefore, the Cubists propose that your sight of an object is the sum of many different views, and your memory of an object is not constructed from one angle, as in perspective, but from many angles, selected by your sight and movement. Cubist painting, paradoxically abstractly before, was an attempt at a more realistic way of seeing.
Alright. According to, of course, this very abstract philosophical thinking, according to Pablo Picasso, when we look at things, of course, we only look at things in reality, but we don't look at things in our mind. But that is the thing in our mind. Is what Picasso wanted for us, of course, to see. Alright, next one.
A typical cubist painting depicts real people, places, or objects, but not from a fixed viewpoint. Instead, it will show you many parts of the subject at one time, viewed from different angles and reconstructed into a composition of shapes, forms, and colors. The whole idea of space is reconfigured. The front, back, and sides of the subject become interchangeable elements in the design of the work.
Alright, sige. I'll explain that sabay-sabay. Next. The Cubists believe that
Cubists believe that the traditions of Western art had become exhausted and another remedy they applied to revitalize their work was to draw on the expressive energy of art from other cultures, especially African art. However, they were not interested in primarily to religious or social symbolism of these cultural objects, but valued them superficially for their expressive style.
Alright, good. So this is one of the influences of Cubism as far as, well, this one is personal preference at best. It does not detract or add anything to Cubism as a trend, but this one is mostly Picasso and Braque's preferences. They love to use African masks in their art. So, next one then.
They viewed them as subversive elements that could be used to attack and subsequently refresh the entire tradition of Western art. This inspiration to cross-reference art from different cultures probably came from Paul Gauguin, the French post-impressionist artist, whose paintings and prints were influenced by the native culture of Tahiti and the Marquesas Islands where he spent his final years.
So, again, this was mostly a personal implementation ni Picasso na hindi siya talagang limitly exclusive. You can actually make cubist art without being, without using African influence. Alright, so for example, this one is a painting of Pablo Picasso's art on the left, unnamed, untitled. You can see how the shape of the figure is influenced by the African tribal mask you can see on the right. Almost meron silang exact parallelism. The one on the right is an exact artifact, and the one on the left is Pablo Picasso's recreation of this artifact into his paintings of Cubism. Alright, next one. So this one is Pablo Picasso's second most important or most relevant artwork, La Demoiselle de Avignon, in which Pablo Picasso, of course, created paintings of 5 women, or to be more specific, 5 prostitutes of the Avignon. And you can see that 2 of them on the very right side are wearing African masks. Nakita yung dalawang nasa right side? The ones who are dangerously poised. All of them are inviting. All of them are poised sexily as far as Cubism warrants it. And you can see that Pablo Picasso here is playing on proportions. For example, look at the leftmost woman, yung babaeng nasa pinaka-left. You can see that her eye is somehow, well, misproportionately placed. Walang tao na yung mata nila ay dito nakalagay sa side. And again, this is just a way of, once again, playing with perspectives. So, eto class yung question. Does this painting arouse you? Is it sexually arousing for the guys?
Can we not answer yun?
Again, most likely not, because this was not Pablo Picasso's intention. Pero ito yung concept dyan na gusto kong mabigay sa atin ni Pablo Picasso. Remember that perhaps if you saw 5 sexy women right in front of you, 2 of which are wearing African masks, you might find it, well, very attractive, sexually speaking. But again, the concept behind it, the idea behind it, the one that Pablo Picasso wants to hack into by trying to remove all forms of perspective, well, ito siguro yung ating ginagamit na idea. For example, if I'm going to Google something like, example, ano Pablo, wait, sira yung momentum ko. Wait for it. Right. Alright. So, for example, let's go to incognito. So, I'm going, for example, to Google Playboy magazine covers. Never mind that. Alright. You might find that the view here is somehow much more attractive or much more sexily poised because this one is designed to be like that, as vulgar as it may appear. But then of course, if you look at the posing, if you look at the dress, if you look at the way that they are actually made, they are actually posed and they are actually made in order that the perspective gives you the maximum amount of visual pleasure, for example. Now, Pablo Picasso's art, remember, plays with perspective. They want you to combine as many perspectives at the same time as possible. So, for example, if I'm going to open my Blender account, my Blender program, my 3D program, wait lang. At ayaw niya magbukas. Go. What? Wala yung laptop Shit, naglolo ko na. Oh, alright. Wala na, kaya na. Alright, sige, never mind. Hindi ko na mapakita sa inyo dahil lagi gumana ng printer ko. Gumana. Alright, sige. Next time lang. So, moving on. This is one another. This is an example of, this is an example once again of art. Cubist art, basically by Picasso. And this gives you the two examples of, the two types pala rather of Cubist art. The one on the left is analytic cubism, and the one on the right will be described as synthetic cubism. We'll be of course discussing the difference between the two as we proceed with our lesson. Alright, so once again, pakibasa siya next. Okay.
Cubism had two distinct phases. The early phase, which lasted until about 1912, was called analytical cubism. Here, the artist analyzed the subject from many different viewpoints,
Simultaneity. Right.
and reconstructed it within a geometric framework, the overall effect of which was to create an image that evoked a sense of the subject. These fragmented images were unified by the use of a subdued and limited palette of colors.
Alright, next. Good, analytic yan. I think we'll stop here, we'll stop with this for the moment. Kasi I need to show you some, tapos ano. Alright, so, next meeting we'll be discussing the two types of cubism, one of which is analytic, the other one is synthetic. Wala muna tayo activity, yun na yun para sa, para sa Friday na yun. In the meantime, again, this video will be recorded and will be uploaded. I will be uploading the presentation to your Blackboard para meron din kayong makitang file. Alright, so, questions? None? Alright, so, sige, we'll stop the video recording for now and then we'll discuss some things regarding our